Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Gihu Talkies. I'm your host Himanshu Bist. Our guest for the day is a digital journalist currently working with the BBC News, with a journey that expands to organizations like the Asia News International, Deccan Herald, and Center for Investigative Journalism. With her academic foundation from the University of Jamia Millia Islamia in convergent journalism, she brings an experience both in the traditional as well as digital newsrooms. We have with us today Ms. Surbhi Kaul. Hello, ma'am. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
How has your experience been, ma'am, in Graphic Era
Okay,
for the
so
first
first
time?
of all, very receptive audience, wonderful students here, and very happy to see get out of the cynicism of a newsroom and seasoned journalists everywhere and look at new, fresh faces, fresh blood, brimming with enthusiasm. Not much cynicism around here, so it was a welcome change for me, and gave me quite a bit of insight into what the new gen is thinking. So thank you again for having me.
Good to hear that, ma'am. So let's dive in the direct questions now, ma'am. You have worked across multiple newsrooms, ma'am, from traditional media as well to the latest digital newsrooms. So, was there any specific story that you covered which made you believe that digital first is going to be the new feature for Indian journalism?
Well, it's not just the way a specific story that I covered that convinced me that I don't think would be true for most journalists either. Because when I was working in the earlier phase of my career, digital was beginning to, really massively pull audiences. I started work with Asia News Network, ANN, which was a digital newsroom before the COVID era and before digital newsrooms were a thing as we know it now.
Yes.
So, Asia News Network comprised of 20 plus Asian publications, newspapers, and mostly traditional newspapers, and I was in the editorial part of it, not reporting there but editorial side, editing it. And Asian News Network being comprising of these 20 odd Asian countries, from Pakistan to South Korea to Mongolia to Myanmar and India, and all of them came together. We were working cohesively as a unit. And what was happening is Mongolia is on the radar, but what's happening in Korea is also on the radar. So is something in Pakistan. And there was a lot of scope for cross-border collaboration. And mind you, the times were not like this today. And people were still, mobile journalism was still a very fledgling concept. It wasn't as mass adapted as
Yes,
it
sir.
is now. So at that time, that is, I think, what shaped my outlook and my experience. And I got to know that this is the future. When you work somewhere and you're convinced that where I'm working is what's going to shape everything. And mind you, at that time we still had cameras, the traditional tripods, heavy sets, carrying around, lugging around. But eventually, it cannot be understated how effective trainings, conferences, and networking with your peers,
Yes,
such
sir.
things are. So I've went through a couple of conferences and realized mobile journalism is also the biggest change now. When I was in college, we were working on P2 cameras, I believe. And today, I don't think anybody would have heard of that. At that time, it was cutting edge
Yes, sir.
technology. But today, it's absolutely not the norm. And a simple smartphone is actually what you need.
Yes, sir.
So I think my experience with these news rooms that were breaking the norm already was what led me to be convinced that digital is the future, or the present actually, not even the future. And this is how things will shape. So yeah.
Nice to know that, ma'am. When we discuss digital journalism in general, ma'am, so for the broader public, it is more about the technology and the advancements that have taken place. From your perspective, I would like to know how do you see the social changes and the cultural shift in the Indian audience, especially, that shaped this narrative and made the digital media the main platform of today?
Accessibility is key here. Having a voice is all right, but having a platform to voice yourself is something that has been a game changer. So, if you see any major digital medium today, any kind of medium that is into it, you will see that there is something for everyone today. Whether it's news, I'm not just talking about news here, but any kind of consumer uh, anything that the consumer is receiving, audience is receiving, comes from varied sources today. So there is something for everyone. Everyone has a voice today. Everyone has a platform today for voicing their own opinions. Now the problem is that there's problem of plenty. But in earlier days, it was revolutionary to have witnessed it, and not just from newsrooms, but also from the perspective of a news consumer. And it was a fascinating change. So, if you want to primarily, for example, I want to primarily broadcast to farmers, say about agricultural techniques, I have the means to do that today. The best thing is that you can find your niche today as an audience, as a
As a journalist and
creator,
audience
as a
both.
journalist, anything.
Yes, sir.
You can be a creator of anything, you can be a journalist, be audience. So, however niche your interests are, or however unique a voice you have,
Yes, sir.
there's always a platform for you. It's just
Exactly.
about finding the right one. So that's one of the fascinating
Yes, sir.
changes to note.
Also, ma'am, while listening to your guest lecture, we came to know you have done your convergent journalism way before it became a buzzword in the media industry. So, how do you see today multiple stories being unfolded in different platforms? Like, for example, there is a particular audience for print also. There is an audience for traditional TV news, and then there is a digital audience that basically hooks on to short form reel content and much more aligned with that sort of content. So, how do you see stories unfolding in all these platforms?
See, I've been in the workspace since the time even data used to be done with a physical way.
Yes, ma'am.
I have worked on a story called India's Missing Doctors,
Okay.
in which we filed an RTI application for every state in the country, all states, 28 of them. Every state got a, because health is a state subject. So filed with them about how many doctors are employed by the government there and they're not showing up for work.
Okay.
And guess how many states we received a reply from? A majority of them replied to the RTI application that we filed. Took weeks, obviously.
Yes.
Some states were very prompt, others were lagging, and some said we have no data. So all we do, and then we manually collected it, all that data, entered it into Excel, and then we got insights from it. Then I did a story. Eventually, that story took a life on its own. How did that happen? The story had insights from various states, and then those various states covered their specific subjects. For example, Greater Kashmir is a publication, Rising Kashmir is a publication, which is a respected one in Kashmir,
Yes, sir.
Srinagar. And that covered the story of a doctor in, I think in, I may be mistaken, but in Kulgam area in Kashmir, a
Okay.
doctor in Kashmir, who hadn't shown up for, I think, 28 years. So, do you know the impact that one story can have?
Yes,
Because in smaller areas, far further reaching areas, one doctor not showing up can mean an entire public health center is not working as it should.
exactly.
It's not just an urban problem. So eventually we realized that this is the way to go. I've been fortunate to be associated with the organizations that have been very forward looking. So this data, I've done it. I did this story, I believe, in 2015 or 2016, something, I think 2015. So at that time, this was totally unheard
Yes,
of.
ma'am.
And it was data in the real sense. You
Exactly.
get papers, you go through them, you collate, and then you gain insights.
Had it been easier for you if you would have been applied? You have been given all these tools that are available in present days.
If I were to do it differently, well, the mode would be same. I would still file an RTI, but
Yes, ma'am.
obviously the data entry, data
Analysis and all.
analysis,
Yes, ma'am.
that would have been definitely easier. So the initial steps would have been same, but later on the steps would have been different and quicker, I believe. So it
Yes,
would
ma'am.
have same time.
And these are the stories that are majorly in public interest.
Yes.
But now that algorithms and various sort of AI technologies, they decide which news is going to travel the farthest. So do you think that has got some sort of a nab on editorial independence?
There is no nab, I think. Well, algorithm is a different kind of a beast, and it has to be tackled at a very different level. It's not just organizations that are struggling with it.
Yes,
Even
ma'am.
individual creators, individual journalists also struggle with it, and there really is no key here. For example, when we used to do Google search SEO type things, that there was a key to it. You knew
ma'am.
what to do with SEO so that your story gets visibility. In today's day and age, algorithm is a beast that we haven't yet fully tamed, I would say. But it's not a nab. I genuinely don't think so, because quality work will get appreciated and noted. And sometimes it doesn't really have to be the digital medium either if you're doing some quality work. I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to blow my own horn, but I did a story on rabies deaths in India,
Okay.
and this was for Data Leads, my previous organization.
Yes, sir.
And we did a story by just looking through government records. The health minister at that time had said these are the number of rabies deaths, and this is the data. It came on an official portal, open source data,
Yes, sir.
nothing that we investigated, just got it. What did we do next? We checked the data out. If Delhi has had n number of rabies deaths, and it's a very relevant story today, imagine,
Yes, sir.
in terms of dog protests and everything. If Delhi has had such an data, you check with 5 hospitals, see what their records are. If 5 hospitals give you this much, and the data already seems, you can question the data, because if you are saying only 39 deaths have been there, how come 5 hospitals are already reporting 30 or 40?
Exactly.
So I'm just, I don't remember the exact numbers. It was a few years ago, but I'm just saying it brought the entire statement into question from the government. Eventually, we did a story on it,
Yes, sir.
and that story, how did it take a life of its own? Eventually, the health minister also replied to the stats, so it was heard in parliament, and then it got an impact, and eventually the story went to Hong Kong, where the Hong Kong University did a massive open online course on data, and they featured the story, and I gave a video presentation on that.
Yes,
So can you imagine the impact? It went cross border, it went cross cultural, and it just took a life of its own, and I can revisit that story today again.
I mean, surely
And
we can
today the
connect with that
algorithm,
story. Yes, sir.
the algorithm would lap it up.
Mhm.
So
It is relevant in
it's
today's
a mix
scenario
of
also.
news sense. It's a mix of knowing what to put out when, and also it's an important thing. What value, what distinctiveness do you bring to a story? If you're just regurgitating, or if I'm just regurgitating whatever everyone else is saying, putting out opinion on the same thing, then that will obviously get buried. But if you have a distinctive take and you make distinctive takes successively,
Yes, sir.
you will get noticed. I believe that.
Some of the kind of stories that you have covered.
Some journalists are lucky they have a platform already, because existing news organizations are already doing well,
Yes,
or
sir.
they already have a sizable audience. But I'm talking about somebody who's, say, starting self-starter or doing something on their own,
Yes, sir.
or maybe a student like you. So algorithm is not to be feared. It's something to be cracked.
And something that individuals can harness to maybe reach out to a broader audience.
Yeah. I've known creators who have had accounts who've been posting regularly.
Yes,
For
ma'am.
years, they didn't see anything. And suddenly it just took off.
Got it, ma'am. So, ma'am, like your stories, the kind of the ones that you have covered, basically these are data driven, which takes a lot of time also. But in the present day scenario, if we see, digital newsrooms are inclined towards breaking news culture also. In that scenario where you have to balance speed and accuracy at the same time, how do individuals or organizations manage that?
It honestly it's a very, I would say it's a very organization based
Yes.
answer. Every organization, I believe, has its own set of values
Yes,
and
sir.
what they believe in the most. If somebody believes in breaking news, getting to be the number one in that category, and speed above all, then they go by that metric. But if somebody believes in being more accurate
Yes.
and just news in a speedy sense, but also accurate, verified, absolutely no scope for any kind of fake leads at all, then you
Clickbait
go by
journalism.
that. No, clickbait is different, but
Yes, ma'am.
just inaccuracy in reporting.
ma'am.
Like I've said 5 dead, there were actually 50 dead. That's also inaccuracy, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it's not fake news, but it could be fake news, because then, stories take a life of their own.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
it was an inaccuracy from my side, came out as misrepresentation of facts, and
Yes, ma'am.
hell breaks loose. So it's a question of just finding a balance with what strikes the best. Every individual, every news organization has their own philosophy and take on that, I believe.
All right, ma'am. So, ma'am, basically, digital journalism, if you see, AI is something that has being used in almost all spheres of digital journalism at present. So are there certain ethical dilemmas that were not present earlier or that you are facing maybe in the recent years only?
Yes, when AI was in a nascent stage in India,
Hmm.
I think there was a shroud of secrecy everywhere. Like journalists were afraid to ask each other, "Are you using AI? Have you seen this tool? What are you going to do?" It felt like something like I would lose credibility if I asked such questions. I don't need AI. But then in a year or two, the technology got so much better. It got so integral that now it's not a question of are you using it. Now it's a question of how do we take it to the next step, next level, at an organizational level and also at an individual level.
Yes, sir.
So it can be a very useful tool, but it's to be seen as something of a assistant who's not very experienced. That's the way I look at it. So it can assist you,
Yes,
but
sir.
you have to oversee everything. At least as of this stage, AI is not at the kind of stage that we can rely on. It's just not very good. Even things like translation, etc., you cannot fully rely on it still. So even if I would translate something, but I would have to go back and check other
Yes, sir. So basically, in the
sources.
age of AI, what
Use
remains for
it,
the yes,
but
sir.
be very cynical.
Exactly, accountability and credibility still lies with the individual,
Yes.
and assistance
Yes.
can be taken from AI.
And I don't think AI at
Yes, sir.
least in full time, like it can't be done in any newsroom as of now
Yes, sir.
without being completely overseen by humans.
And personally, I would like
And
to
I
know
think,
also your view on, ma'am, the recent developments that we have seen in terms of AI anchors, artificial anchors that are taking place for at least some shows.
yeah, I believe in India also there's an
Yes, ma'am.
Orissa based news channel
Yes,
that
ma'am.
has done that, and
Yes,
in
ma'am.
China also that
Even
happened
India
much
today has
earlier.
came up with their AI
Yeah,
anchor.
AI anchor.
Yes, ma'am.
So my problem is that the way that I see it is that AI anchors, I think, would lack the kind of personality that a real person has. You know, you can be angry at someone. You don't like what the anchor is saying. You can be angry at them. How do you invoke that kind of a reaction to AI anchors? Would
Exactly.
you be angry at them? Would you be happy with them if they do some great story? Would you feel happy for them? Would they inspire that kind of loyalty from the audience? I really doubt it. You will be indifferent to them. So eventually, that is the fear I have, that people will become indifferent. And I think right now it works because it's a nice gimmick. But AI, if it's not a person, how do you relate to it? How do you get angry
Exactly.
at? How do you feel happy for it? Or how do you feel it has done something path breaking, and then they know what they're talking about? So
So audience
that's
basically connects with real anchors at a personal level.
yeah, because they are
Yes,
flesh and
ma'am.
blood. They make mistakes. They own up to it. They do
Yes,
good
ma'am.
work. They work hard. They go out in the front lines. So
Exactly.
it's a different kind of connect. My fear is
Yes, ma'am.
basically audience indifference.
Got it. Coming on to the next part, ma'am, like in the past few decades or in the past few years, if we see, there have been pressures and challenges for individual journalists also and for organizations also in a way. So, I mean, in the educational setting, we won't go into individual organizations that have faced such scrutiny. But on a general level, as a journalist, what do you feel, despite being to be able to reach to a wider audience, is the dissent in India facing much more troubles than it has faced in the past?
Dissent in terms of like,
Dissent in terms of like, if a work is seen as, let's say, critical of some policy or a particular group, then it is taken, with uh, quite a critical.
well, that's a danger that journalists have been facing, and it's amplified in the past few years, definitely, because as I said, everyone has a voice now,
Yes, sir.
everyone has a platform now. So anyone and everyone can go on and make any claim anywhere. And the sad part is it can gain traction online. So if one person says a lie, that can be refuted but denied. How can, but if that one person has
Yes, sir.
influenced another 1,000, that's a sizable number, then you have to really up the ante from your side. So this is a dilemma most working journalists will face, because at the end of the day, the audience has to discern whether any kind of any narrative, any claim, or even any statement does that come from a verified, credible place, or does it come from a slander or libel kind of a direction?
Also, in the recent past only, like we have seen individual journalists, specifically female journalists, that were targeted. There were apps like Bullyby and Sully Deals that targeted female journalists and other social workers also. So, in that sense, do you think individual journalists are now being targeted for the kind of content that they produce or the stories that they do? And on a
But
personal level, have you faced any such
what
things?
is journalism? It's basically
Yes, ma'am.
publishing something or writing about something or showing something that someone somewhere does not want published
Exactly.
or written
Yes, ma'am.
about. So, in that sense, journalists have always faced
Mhm.
scrutiny, they've faced dangers. And if you look at, I don't need to overstate it, but
Mhm.
look at any, like for example, look at any body that monitors
Yes, ma'am.
how difficult it is to be a journalist. It's pretty difficult even these days. Being a woman certainly amplifies some more aspects of it.
Mhm.
But I think um, the country overall, or just society in general, has to have some kind of media training and media sensitivity,
Mhm.
some kind of a discernment of what messages are being sent,
Yes, ma'am.
and there has to be a collective intolerance of these things. So unless the society at large does not become intolerable of such acts and behaviors, it
Yes,
would
sir.
be very difficult to change individual behaviors.
Also, it came more of a shock because these were not specialized IT cells that were doing such a thing. It was being run by college students only that were targeting
I mean,
journalists.
without getting into the
Yes, ma'am.
specifics of the case, because honestly, it's been some time and I don't
Yes, sir.
genuinely do not remember all the details, so I would refrain from commenting. But yeah, like you said, it's tough being a journalist. It's tougher being a woman journalist, and when you're out in the field,
Mhm.
the most important thing for a journalist is to get an accurate, verified story
Yes, sir.
out as soon as possible. That's the job we do, and most journalists are cognizant of the risks that thing entails.
Got it, ma'am. Ma'am, digital journalism is often credited with simplifying the things to a broader audience, but at the same times, it is also inclined towards spreading of fake news or misinformation, we can say. So, from the audience perspective, what do you think are the practical steps that can be taken by individual viewers, also by the authorities, to sensitize the general public about media, as we discussed earlier,
Right.
and what can be done from an audience perspective to become a more aware citizen?
So, first of all, I would like to say that fake news is not entirely the prerogative of digital journalism. It's
Exactly.
just being the
That is
side
part
effect
of
of
every
being
yes.
digital.
Hmm.
24/7 digital
Yes, sir.
audience and 24/7 digital creators are like, it's not just the journalism. I think journalism honestly does not contribute that much to fake news as much as just this,
Social media in general
social
does.
media in general is
Yes, sir.
something that contributes a lot to it. So there was, I believe, organizations like Meta had fact checks, or X, they had fact checks. Readers note on X, right?
Yes, sir.
So they put community notes, etc.
Hmm.
So that was a step in the right direction. On X, I still see that,
Yes, sir.
but I think
Other social
bots,
medias have taken
etc.
that back
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So bots, etc. have taken over
Mhm.
that space to some extent.
Yes, sir.
And for the audience, I think it's imperative that we start at the building block level. For example, these things should start in school, I would say, not even college. You start sensitizing students as soon as possible
Yes,
so
sir.
that they can affect the change. And when a person is 14 or 15 years old, they are, I think, perfectly capable of understanding that whatever comes to me on, be it WhatsApp, be it YouTube, be it anything, I go and type it somewhere, Google, and then put verify with it.
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of fact checkers have already done something on that. A lot of claims have already been debunked. And I think it's important that the government also collaborate with people who are doing a very good job online of busting these myths. But
Yes,
like
sir.
I said earlier, I'm a bit of a cynic, and I believe people like to confirm their own biases.
Hmm.
So
That is a
it's a
fact, ma'am.
but that is why it's imperative to tackle this challenge with
Yes,
the
sir.
help of the new generation. That is where foundational change will take place. When we target students, when we speak to college students, school students,
Yes,
that
sir.
is when major change will come.
And as audience also, people need to understand their responsibility, what kind of news they are spreading, what kind of forwards they are sharing with others.
The problem is audience is a metaphysical concept,
Hmm.
because there is an audience for everything today.
Exactly.
So which audience? There is a stream of audience that's for gaming, there's a stream of audience that's for
Hmm.
LinkedIn only, there's some people who are only on living for Instagram, there are others who are living for YouTube, there are some people, there's an audience for everything today.
Yes, sir.
So how many people do you sensitize? So it's important to have a culture of accountability overall, and a culture of verification should be promoted. I think it needs to be done at the granular level,
Yes, sir.
and as much widespread as possible.
Great, ma'am. So, ma'am, finally, coming on to the last of the questions, if in the current digital journalism landscape of India, if you were to, let's say, tell about some future aspects or trends that you see, so what will that be? Like, if you would, sorry, what trends do you think will be standing out in the near future of digital journalism
We
in
are
India?
already dealing with AI, definitely. But I think, like I said, virtual reality,
Mhm.
immersive reality, this is going to be the next frontier. But I also believe
Yes, sir.
that although there have been so many discontinuations of long form journalism overall, I believe it's an important and vital public service thing that will come back. So, long form, investigative, boots on the ground journalists will never go out of fashion. That is what I personally believe.
All right, ma'am.
And even though storytelling will get more advanced
Mhm.
in terms of skills and in terms of mediums, the heart of the storytelling hack remains the same. Just good stories told credibly and with passion, they always resonate.
And ma'am, for the students who are aspiring to come into the arena of digital journalism, what skills and what techniques or what sort of training do you think that they should acquire in their initial years?
Well, there are so many trainings, so many courses these days you can do online, but I would say having a curious and inquisitive mind is irreplaceable. The minute you ask right questions, the minute you ask the right questions to the right people,
Hmm.
and you have a curious mind in general, I think 50% of 60% of the battle is already won. And any major tool, any major technology, you can master it in some time. Everyone can, because technology today is as people friendly as it will ever get. It's not the hold of some elites.
Yes,
It's
sir.
very accessible to everyone. So just having the basics right, getting inquisitive about general about everything, and also a side thing, knowing the business side of things
Got it.
for digital journalists. That would also be a good thing. What really makes an imprint digitally? What makes a story live long? What catches the eye? How does the business and revenue streams come into it? So that's a huge add-on if you can kind of train yourself for that. Of
Well,
course, there are so many digital tools today
yes, sir.
that you can master. For example, NewsWeb, try that out. You can learn basic
Yes, sir.
Google.
Analytics.
Yeah, analytics. You can learn
Yes, sir.
even SEO today. I wouldn't say it still
Yes, sir.
works. It
Yes, sir.
still
Definitely.
has some users. So yeah, these things will always help.
Surely,
Even
ma'am.
looking at something like Google Trends, a story can come from anywhere. And if you're willing to work with data and in the space of social media, try something like
Yes, sir.
NewsWeb, Canva, etc.
And for data collection and analysis, ma'am, any specific tools that you would like to suggest to the viewers?
Yeah, you can master Flourish. That will be. You can master Canva. That will be
Power
extreme.
BI.
There is no end to these tools. There are so many of them.
Yes, sir.
But the ones that I've seen primarily used in newsrooms are Flourish and
Flourish.
Canva.
Got it, ma'am.
These two tools are very good. Like they can be used interchangeably for a lot of things.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks for that. And finally, ma'am, one question that I would like to ask you on a personal note. If you were to describe Indian journalism in general in today's scenario, what are the two things? Firstly, one that excites you the most about the future, and secondly, something that really something that really worries you about the future of digital journalism.
What worries me is what I'd like to answer first.
Surely.
Audience patterns. Because try as we might, we sometimes just do not get the answer of why something did, what something did, and why did it do well or not do well. What was the logic or reasoning behind it? Most things can be solved, but audience patterns are so evolving, and news consumers are so dynamic a group that uh, it's sometimes just and also the kind of content that gets headlined these days can be a bit of a worry, not just in terms of fake news, misinformation,
Yes, sir.
disinformation. So yeah, disinformation is something that really concerns me, because sometimes misinformation and fake news, I believe many people would be able to tell the difference if they read it with or consumed it with discernment. But disinformation targeted by some
Yes,
state
ma'am.
actors or others
Hmm.
is extremely concern worthy. And what excites me is, well, to be honest, I love seeing fresh blood. I love seeing how uh, new people in the industry are not going by the textbook, not following any rules. They're creating their own paths, and they are not at the mercy of any organization or they're not at the mercy of any, you know, any specific benefactors. They're just charting their own path. So these native digital organizations, young people really
Yes,
doing
ma'am.
their own thing, becoming everything online and becoming one-stop measure for the audience is something really inspiring, really.
And that independent journalism on the digital end, do you see also that as a emerging opportunity?
Yeah, of course. Independent journalism will always have an impact. It will always find an audience. It just has to be done with a lot of passion, creativity, and honesty.
Thank you so much, Subi ma'am, for joining us today and sharing your honest journey and insights with us. And to our viewers, the next time you scroll through your feed, do remember the courage, creativity, and the craft that goes behind telling a compelling story. Until next time, I Himanshu take your leave. Keep inspiring and keep creating. Have a nice day.